Hello everyone, and welcome to the final episode of the new Celeste 20% tutorial. And in this last episode, I'll be going over the last few sections of Summit, starting with 2500. So, of course, this section is based off Temple, so you're going to have lots of bubbles to work with. You're going to have 2 dashes to use with all the moving dash blocks. Leads to some interesting occurrences, and there are a few major strats in this section that you'll need to know. So to start off, you just want to get to the bubble as soon as possible. Like you can like dash jump and then dash up right and then dash into the bubble. You can start with like a reverse dash jump and then do 2 diagonals into the bubble. The fastest way to do it though is to do a very short jump and then just do upright, forward, and then upright again. Like that, and remember you want to fast trigger all these bubbles. So, and then you want to take this bubble and then you want to dash diagonally and climb up off the top of the wall. You can corner boost off of them, but it's very hard to line up the corner boost and hard to time the downright dash if you get the corner boost. And you also want to avoid accidentally corner boosting if you don't want to. So make sure you aim a little lower on the wall, because if you aim too high, you'll corner boost. But after climb jumping, well, if you do corner boost, you want to downright to the next bubble, but if you don't, you want to just dash forward to the next bubble. And you basically do the same thing with this bubble. Again, you want to, don't grab here, you just dash forward to the next bubble. But again, you want to either corner boost here, or make sure you don't corner boost here accidentally, because that'll get you killed. This next bubble, I'd recommend taking towards the end of the room, but then dashing down before you get out. So I'd recommend dashing down here, because while you can do the next strat using a hyper bunny hop, it's a lot easier if you dash jump, because if you hyper bunny hop, you have to corner boost off of there, which is a very difficult corner boost to get, because you have to do an extremely short hyper, and you see you just barely get it. What's a lot easier though is if you dash forward into the transition, and then perform a dash jump at the start of the transition. And if you buffer the dash jump correctly, it'll basically line up automatically for another bunny hop. Don't hold the jump button the entire time though, because you need to release it to fall to that platform, or otherwise you can go too far. If you want to get if you just want to use the full distance and just hold jump, you can dash jump right before the transition, and then just maybe even use your second jump button to perform the bunny hop. Either way, you want to be able to grab this block without dashing, because if you dash, this block becomes a wall and you can't get past it. So once you grab this wall, you don't have to grab it, but I'd recommend grabbing it just to line up this fall. You can fall down here, dash forward. You want to climb jump off of here, and if you do it early enough, you can dash jump off of this block. If this block starts rising and you attempt to dash jump though, it'll actually lower your momentum a little, and you'll dash forward into these spikes in front of you. So make sure you just dash jump right away once you land on here, and then you can either dash upright to land here, or just grab here and then climb jump so you can wave dash. Still have another dash. Either way, you want to wave dash or hyper off of this spot. Not buffer, hyper. But in the next room, if you bunny hop at the start of the room, you don't have to bunny hop, but it's a pretty easy bunny hop to do. If you bunny hop or just take the hyper further forward, you can wave dash off this block and get lots of speed. And then if you time an upright dash correctly, you want to grab this wall as high as possible with the upright. If you don't, you want to be at the very top of this wall when you climb jump though. So if you don't grab the very top, I would suggest just climbing to make sure you're at the top, because it kind of varies where you grab this wall depending on when you do the dash. So if you climb jump over the wall at the very top, you can just dash forward to land here. For here, what you want to do is, again, you hyper in. You want to do a short hyper if you want to bunny hop, or a long hyper if you don't want to bunny hop. Again, this next bunny hop is optional. The next room has a bit of a tricky strat that involves an ultra. So you want to wave dash, either wave dash or demo hyper off of this block. And I actually find the demo hyper a little easier, because if you input the wave dash too soon, you'll just wall jump off the side of the block, like that. But by doing demo hyper, because you dash forward instead of downward, it's a little easier to catch up with the block. So I would actually highly recommend this demo hyper. Again, there's an optional bunny hop at the start, but after wave dashing or demo hypering off this first block, you need to wait a little bit before you ultra, but you want to ultra and then wave dash off that next block. Like, you could do 2 ultras, but it's a little dangerous because of how much speed you get, and sometimes you'll hit spikes when you don't want to. So I'd recommend ultra and then wave dash off here. It's pretty common to accidentally wall jump off the side of this block, in which case you can just get back to the block, stand on it, dash down, and then you want to wave dash off of it. Because after wave dashing off that block, you can do 2 uprights and then climb jump to here. So if that's all done correctly, it looks like that. Death strat, if you die at the start of this room. So if you die at the start of this room, you're not going to be able to enter with this block low, because if you want to get to it, you'd have to do that. So it's a little faster if you die. And I believe death puts you down here, but let me just check. No, death puts you up here. So what you can do if you die is, if you do an extended hyper and then upright, you can grab this crystal and then upright again, and that pretty much gives you the lineup you want. So if you respawn from here, just do a short extended hyper, and then everything else lines up. That's the death strat. You want to try that demo hyper for the entry strat because it's very fast. So next up, actually I want to have this off because key skip's coming up. If you can just either extended hyper or dash forward here, but then you want to dash down and then wave dash out of the room. And then if you have room, you can extended hyper at the start of the next room, but I would recommend bunny hopping because sometimes you don't always have enough room to get your dash back. So bunny hopping is a lot safer. And coming up is another major skip. Because normally, if you want to get the key that's up and to the right from here, you have to go down here, take this bubble, and then take the bubble all the way up into this spike chamber to the right. But you can actually skip this entire lower section if after grabbing this wall, this is called key skip, not because it skips the key, but because it skips to the key. But this is much easier than it looks. Because, again, in a similar manner to lake skip, those spikes, the spikes that are hanging from the ceiling there, actually have a small piece of exposed space that you can wall jump off of. And so if you wall jump off the top of the first wall, and then do another wall jump off the bottom of the second wall, they both line up. And these should both be neutral jumps, so you shouldn't be pressing left or right at all during these 2 jumps. You just want to... I'd recommend 2 jump buttons, because if you hold your first jump button on this first jump, and then just press the second, you'll get full jump height out of both of these, which makes it much easier. So just let yourself fall after the transition, and then you just want to buffer a neutral jump off this first corner, and then the second one pretty much lines itself up, always. And then after you get it, you just dash up twice, and then climb jump off the right side. Don't try climb jumping off the left side, because the left side has a few more spikes on it. But once you get to here, you just want to hyper to the key, and then the moment you grab the key, you want to pause and retry. Because it takes a very long time to get past that crumble block and all those like zigzaggy platforms over there. So retrying just respawns you at the start of the room, and you also keep the key. And it respawns you down here, which is faster than trying to go through that section. And then right here, you can either jump and dash down left, or just dash left and down. They're pretty much the exact same speed. 2 down rights to get to the key in the door as soon as possible. Be ready to hyper in the next room the moment the door opens. And then you want to dash down to this bubble. Remember, fast trigger all these bubbles. Take this bubble forward, and then you want to wall bounce off of that right edge there. You don't need to wall bounce off that corner that's jutting out. You can wall bounce off the wall at the very right of the bubble. But you'll get a little less height if you do that, so just be ready for this left dash to be a little tighter if that happens. But I recommend, dash left to land on that block. And then you just want to wait for this block to move out of the way so you can climb jump through here. And then You basically have two options. One is to actually get on top of this block before it fully retracts, the block to the left. So, actually, no, you can't do that if you do it this way. So you're going to want to hyper off of here. And then if you want to play safe, you can just dash forward and go through all of this. But it is a little faster if you do another wave dash off here, because then you can do 2 ultras to get out of the room. If you ultra correctly, you can just bunny hop into this bubble to keep your ultra momentum. But since it's a little hard to do that consistently, I'd recommend just hyper dashing into this bubble, just to guarantee that you get some speed into it. And then take this up, take this right. You can fast fall to this bubble pretty safely. Take it up. You can either cut a corner by dashing down right to this bubble. Not too hard, but it is a little dangerous. Or you can just dash right into it. And then I'd recommend doing 2 forward dashes. And if you want, you can demo dash on the second dash just to make it a little easier to avoid these spikes. But if you time these forward dashes correctly, you can land on this platform without having to climb jump at all. Next up is one of the harder rooms. In 2500, it's a very tight upright dash. We call this thread the needle because it's just has very precise timing, but it's also a very short room. Dying in it isn't too drastic. But you want to do a short hyper into this room, or I guess it doesn't really matter if it's a short hyper or not, but you want to hyper into the next room. Be ready to wave dash and jump really early so that you don't hit, if you extend the wave dash too much, you might hit the spikes on that platform that moves to the left. You can see I can avoid it pretty easily, but sometimes it will go a little too late and hit it like that. So just be sure you wave dash early and that you get your dash back. Because what you need to do is you need to dash upright through that spike gap right there. And you want to wait a little bit after the upright to make sure you clear all the spikes. And this is going to take some practice because it's just that one upright dash that you need to time. Once you get through, you just dash up. Something that you can use to help line it up a little is if you dash, you can kind of use these vines right here. Whoops. But you can see where I put the save state. A little higher than this, so at kind of the top right corner of this piece of vine, that's where you want to do the upright dash. Let me fix my save state one sec. So you can see you can kind of use that vine as a guide to dash upright, but with practice you'll get this pretty consistently. Something that I picked up that you probably don't want to do for now because it does take a little bit to input is if you do diagonal demo dash, which is complicated, but basically it shrinks your hitbox like a normal demo dash does, and allows you to squeeze through this a little more easily. But then again, you can't do demo dashes just by pressing your demo dash, or diagonal demo dashes just by pressing your demo dash button. So in some ways it is more difficult. I just find it easier for me because I don't have trouble putting diagonal demos. From here, you can extend and hyper and then wave dash, or just do 2 short hypers. Coming up is a very popular strat known as door skip, which I do actually highly recommend you do because it's a lot easier than it looks. But the gist of it is that these doors that you normally hit these buttons to open, you can actually go under those doors because there's a gap between the doors and the spikes. So you can dash through these gaps. That's door skip. And it's a lot easier to do these if you use demo dash because again it shrinks your hitbox. So I highly recommend you use demo dash to get through these. To line up the first one, you can either dash forward and then dash forward again, or if you want a little more time to line it up, it's not too much slower, just to dash upright and dash forward. From here, you want to just do a short jump, dash up, dash right, dash down right, and then dash forward through this crystal. And then again, you dash upright and then time a forward dash to go through the door. If you really don't want to do door skip though, because you may find it tough at first, and it is only 1 second saved, but it's a lot easier than it looks, so it's definitely worth at least trying. But if you don't want to do that, you want to dash down and get to the spring as soon as possible, so you have 2 dashes. And you can dash up, forward. Actually, I don't suggest you do that. But you need to take the spring. And then you pretty much do the same thing in most of the room, except you hit 2 buttons. After grabbing the last crystal, it's just 2 uprights to land here. And then coming up is maybe the longest room in the entirety of Summit, so you don't want to die, especially at the end. Hyper in, and this is another situation where if you have enough room, you can extend it hyper. But since this platform is really small, I would suggest a bunny hop instead. Because even with just a bunny hop, you can upright twice to get to this wall. And then you just want to climb jump into the spring. Wave dash off of there, and then you can either up left immediately after the wave dash, or just take the wave dash a little further left so you can dash up into Battle-In. The moment Battle-In throws you here, you want to dash into the spring before you start falling just to cancel the recoil. And then you can just do 2 right dashes, it's pretty safe. Just to dash right twice and you land on Battle-In again. Dash up left and just climb jump onto here. And then you want to either extended hyper or wave dash off of here. And then up right or up left to that wall so you can skip this block right here. And then there are a lot of different ways to get to this block. Some that are faster, some that are slower. I would highly suggest just doing it the slower way and climb jumping and then wall jump and then dash right into it. And then I'd suggest just dropping down to the spring because that's safer, and then dashing upright to Battle-In. Actually, after hitting Battle-In there, so after Battle-In throws you straight up, you don't want to dash, because you want to get to this block without dashing at all, because if you dash on your way to the block, you'll have to wait for it to go back down. So after Battle-In throws you, you just want to climb jump up this wall to get up here, and then step onto here. You can just dash down, take a momentum boost, and then you can get on top of the right block, and then jump off of it to get an extra momentum boost and get into the bubble sooner, but that is a little dangerous and is at the very end of an extremely long room. So don't dash to this block because you need 2 dashes, but you can just wall jump, and then once this gets to the top, you can just climb up, and then do 2 up dashes to the bubble. Alright, and now for 3000. This is the longest section of Summit. So it's going to take a little extra practice. It's like 3 sections in one, basically. But it also has these flags, which act as checkpoints. So what you want to do, just from the start, is if you can just do a short jump and then 2 uprights just to land here. And then here is just a long string of alternating wall bounces and up dashes. So you wall bounce, up dash, wall bounce, up dash, wall bounce, up dash, wall bounce, up dash, wall bounce. And then you grab this flag. If you're standing on the right side of this platform, you can just dash up immediately without having to jump, and then you can wall bounce off there and do another wall bounce to the crystal. Make sure you don't do these wall bounces too high though, because it is actually possible to accidentally go over the crystal, like that. So you can make the first one really high, but just make sure the second one's low enough that you actually still grab the crystal. If you neutral jump after the wall bounce to the crystal, you'll be perfectly lined up to do 4 up dashes and then wall bounce. So 1, 2, 3, wall bounce. And if you wall bounce low enough, you'll grab that crystal. Again, if you wall bounce too high, you might go over it, so you have to be careful. But after grabbing the last crystal, you can dash up. I'd suggest doing 1 climb jump, just to make sure you're high enough to wall bounce to Battle-In. Because while you can get to her without a climb jump, sometimes you'll wall bounce too low. And if you miss that orb, you're going to fall a long way down, because you often won't be able to make it back to this wall. So just do 1 climb jump for safety, then wall bounce to Battle-In. This room has a pretty neat trick where you wall bounce off a wall you can't see. There's actually a wall hidden behind this cloud that you can wall bounce off of. So if you jump, dash forward here, if you grab this wall right here, you can actually wall bounce off of an invisible wall right there. If you want to go into debug mode, so that you can then press backquote / tilde to see the hitboxes. So you can see the spot I'm wall bouncing off of, like the highest wall that isn't covered in spikes. So if you wall bounce off of there, you can then wall bounce off of here. You climb jump to flag 27. And you need to make sure you get max height out of both of these wall bounces, so you grab the bottom of this wall here and not hit the spike. That is a little tough, especially since you can't see what you're looking for. So alternatively, you can, this is a lot slower, like this strat to the right saves a lot of time, but if you want to go left, you can extend a dash jump, and then if you get enough height, you can reverse dash jump off of there, but it's a little hard to do, so instead, I'd recommend just doing a short dash jump, a bunny hop, and then you can just dash up right, or up left, I mean, and then left. And then if you reverse dash jump from here, you can get to here, and then again, reverse dash jump again, and then you can get to here. That is a lot slower than taking the right path though, so definitely try the right path out. From here, you can just immediately wall bounce off this wall right here, and then wall bounce again, get to here. And then if you do just a short jump, and then up left, forward, you can land here. From this flag, I'd recommend jumping and then doing 2 up dashes so you can wall bounce off the right wall, and then wall jump through the crystal. And then the rest is mostly just dashing, so upright, forward, 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 forward. Actually not forward there, but it's mostly forward dashes. Except for 2 upright dashes to get to the flag at the end. From here, you're gonna skip flag 24, because there's a flag 25 strat that gets you out of here really quickly. You want to wall bounce off of here, and then you want to get to that platform, so you can either climb jump over this after the wall bounce, but if you find that a little dangerous because of the spikes, you can either go back to this wall jump, or do 2 wall jumps. You just want to get to this spot safely, and then skip flag 24. If you just jump from here, or if you get to the top of here first, jump, and then wall bounce, you can wall bounce off of there and just dash up right to here. From this crumble block, you can hyper bunny hop. So hyper off of this first one, bunny hop off the second one. It's a little bit tricky because the downdraft makes you go a lot lower with your hypers. So if you don't want to do that, you can just jump, dash forward to the next block, and then get out. But this hyper bunny hop isn't too bad. If you wall bounce off that right wall, you can then just dash up left to land on this platform over here. You can skip that spring entirely. And then ideally, you want to extended hyper off this crumble block. But if you don't extend it, it's not too bad. Like if you don't extend that hyper, you can just dash up and land on this platform, and then dash up again. You don't need to jump to land on the flag. If you do extend the hyper though, you can just ignore that first platform. So you'll see, I just barely land on this platform if I do 2 up dashes. From here, you can. There's also a flag 24 skip that you can do, which is pretty fast. Where you hyper from here, and then bunny hop, and then 2 up dashes to get to here, and then you can wall bounce and dash up to the spring. That does skip flag 22 though. So if you have trouble with flag 22, I'll just skip the next flag. If you have trouble with flag 22, what I would suggest is instead of hyper bunny hopping off of here and then doing these 2 up dashes, I'd recommend doing the dash jumps so that you just have a little less speed, and then you can climb up that wall a little, and then wall bounce, and then climb your way up to flag 22. Regardless of whether or not you skip flag 22 or not, you're going to dash into the bottom of that first spring. So from the wall bounce, if you skip the flag, it's just an up dash, but if you land here, it's up, left, up, forward, up. And you have to make sure that you keep as much height as you possibly can so that you don't fall under these springs. And then if you do up, left, and up here, if you do a very high wall bounce, you can wall bounce over these spikes, but if you wall bounce too low, you'll hit the spikes. So if you don't like that wall bounce, you can just climb jump. And you're not going to have much stamina, so you need to be careful. But if you don't like that wall bounce, you can just climb jump. either way, you're gonna climb jump to the spring and then just do 2 forward dashes to land here. After the first forward dash, if you line yourself up correctly, you can just immediately extend the dash jump off this platform without even landing on it, and you'll grab the flag anyway. But if you do that extended dash jump, you can do 2 up dashes to the spring. But otherwise, what you'd want to do, if you do land here first, is just wall bounce off of here and then dash up to the spring. So after hitting the spring, it's just 2 forward dashes, extended dash jump off the crumble block, and then you can do 2 wall bounces to get onto flag 20. There's a spike jump you can do here. If you do a very short, or if you do a dash jump where you press jump immediately but hold jump and then press your second jump button, you can actually bunny hop off that spike platform right there. It's hard to explain, but it has to do with the way wind works. And if you buffer this bunny hop, it's actually really consistent. But if you don't want to do this, this bunny hop isn't too bad. But if you don't want to do it and you want to get to that platform pretty quickly still, I'd suggest a reverse dash jump so you can get your dash back. You can just jump upright forward, but you need to space them out a lot. But if you reverse dash jump, you'll have more momentum so you can dash more quickly. You want to land on the right side, or you don't need to land on the right side of that block, but there's a strat that you can do if you land on the right side. So you can either jump and then do 2 wall bounces and just get out of the room, or if you land far enough left, you can extend the dash jump and then just do 2 up dashes. They're about the same. The end part is mostly just kind of spamming up dashes. I wouldn't recommend mashing dash, I'd recommend kind of timing them and getting used to how quickly you can dash. Because if you spam, you might actually drop some inputs and you'll go slower. But you want to try to always go through a crystal after using up your second dash. Because if you grab crystal while you already have 1 dash, then one of your dashes is going to go to waste and you won't quite make it to battle with your last dash. So you see, I grabbed one of those crystals early before I got the chance to do my second dash. And so I grabbed the wall a little low, which means I need to do some extra climb jumps to battle in. Like that. But if I grab the first crystal low enough and dash up quickly enough, then I can grab that last crystal using my second dash so that I have 2 dashes to get to battle in. And if you think you're gonna grab a crystal early, it is faster to fall a tiny bit so that you can use all the dashes you need. And this is Updraft, probably the hardest part of 3K. And it also has the longest flags because you move very slowly through this section. So deaths in this section are going to cost you a lot of time, much more than deaths in Downdraft will cost you. So you need to be a little careful in this section. It also has some pretty tough flags. But anyway, you want to jump from a wall bounce so you can dash left to this cloud and then just take momentum boost from there. And then you want to do a kind of high wall bounce off of this wall. You want to skip this flag. But if you do a high wall bounce off the left wall and then do 3 high climb jumps off the right wall, you'll be able to get enough height just to dash right to flag 17. You don't want to do any more than 3 climb jumps though, because you might grab the corner below flag 17, and if you don't have stamina, you're going to be in trouble. So you want to have enough stamina for at least 1 more climb jump, just in case you need to grab this corner. From flag 17, you just want to jump and then do a wall jump, and then do 2 uprights. Take the cloud, boost, dash upright, and then fast falling is really helpful in Updraft because otherwise you fall very slowly. So it is helpful to fast fall here for speed, and it's not as dangerous because you're going to fall more slowly anyway. But I'd recommend you stop fast falling once you get near the crystal, because if you can dash upright through the crystal without grabbing it first, then you can do a fast strat here. So if you can dash upright through the crystal instead of grabbing the crystal before you dash upright, you'll have 2 dashes in this section, and then you can do 2 climb jumps 2 wall jumps, and then you can just dash forward here and then dash up right here to the flag. It is a little bit tricky to grab that crystal without, or grab that crystal after your dash. So if you end up having only 1 dash, you can just fall to here, wall jump, and then do the same. It helps, it's a little easier to grab that crystal with your dash if you stop fast falling once you get near it, so that you can carefully time it. When you land on flag 16, you can just dash up and wall bounce, you don't even need to jump, but if you want the little extra height, you can jump. But after flag 15, sometimes you'll skip flag 15, it doesn't matter too much because it's a very straightforward flag. You just jump, dash up right, and then climb jump over here. And you want to fast fall to flag 14 because it actually is faster, even though it's a small fall. From flag 14, it's just an extended hyper, and then 2 forward dashes to land on the spring, and then you can dash diagonally through all these sections. So dash diagonally through here, wall jump, dash diagonally, wall jump, and then here you need to be careful with your stamina. So I would suggest doing a climb jump, 1 climb jump, doing a wall jump to there, and then doing 3 climb jumps to get as much height as you can, and then wall jumping out. And then you'll have just enough stamina to do all that. Flag 13 is probably the most dangerous flag in all of Updraft because of a tricky dash at the end of the room, and it's also a very long flag. So you just want to jump, and if you jump high enough, you can dash upright over here. And then you want to hit the top of this first spring, which means that it's a little easier if you dash down left to it, so you can hit the top of it. And hitting the top of the spring will give you just enough height to dash forward over these spikes. I was a little too low there, so... And you can dash to the spring pretty early, it's not too dangerous. So just at the very peak of the spring bounce, you can dash forward over that spike, and then you can very easily dash forward again over these spikes. The second forward dash is a lot easier than the first, so if you want to do upright with the first dash, feel free. But this forward dash is very safe. After hitting this spring, you can either dash upright, wall jump off that wall at the top corner, and then do an upright over the spikes, or if you dash up at the very peak of the spring's bounce, you can just ignore that wall and dash upright. But you need to make sure you get full height out of the spring and full height out of the up dash. So you want to space out your dashes quite a bit. This next part's a little tough, so you want to hit that spring down there. You can fast fall to it if you want to, but if you're scared of these spikes, you don't have to. Then you want to dash up to the first switch, the one that's high up. Fall to the second switch. You can fast fall to the second switch if you want. You just need to make sure that you land on the top right corner of the second switch. So if you have trouble landing on the top right corner of the switch, I would suggest not fast falling, because if you land on the top right corner of the switch, you can dash upright and just barely hit that spring on the right. If you grab this switch too low, or if you grab it too far to the left, you'll have to climb jump to that spring, which actually costs a lot of time. And then the moment you hit the spring, you want to dash upright, and then you can either just drift to the switch and then dash left once you grab it, or you can immediately dash right to the switch and then just wall jump. And then you want to hit this spring again. And then this is the hardest part of the entire flag. You just need to get used to the timing. There's no real setup for this. You just want to dash up the moment you're lined up to get through those spikes, and then dash up again. And sometimes you'll have a little bit of time to drift left or right after the first dash, just to make the second dash easier to line up. Because you see I'm very high up here, so you can actually fall a little bit if you need more time to line it up. Flag 12, you can wall bounce off this first wall, but it's really hard because the spikes are aligning along it. So I'd recommend just jumping and then wall jumping. If you do die though, this isn't the exact respawn point, but if you do die, you'll automatically be lined up for a wall bounce. So from entry, if you just grab the flag, I suggest just wall jumping. But if you die, you should wall bounce, and then you should wall bounce off here as well. And then you want to land kind of on the top of this crystal, so that you can dash up, dash upright, and then land on the top of the second crystal. Because if you land on the very top of this crystal, you can do 2 kind of well-spaced up dashes, and then you can neutral jump around that spike up here. And if you grab the crystal too low, or if you dash up too quickly, you'll be too low to neutral jump around the spike. So you just want to space those dashes as much as possible so you get maximum height. It's highly unlikely that you'll go too high and hit the spikes. You're much more likely to go too low, so don't be too afraid. You can grab the wall below the spikes, and then neutral jump like that. But the problem with that is that you need to let go of grab, immediately input neutral jump, and then immediately press grab again so you can start climbing the wall. And often what will happen is you'll accidentally press jump before you release grab, which will cause you to climb jump into the spikes. That's probably the most common way to die to flag 12. So I would highly recommend the version where you do 2 up dashes so you can neutral jump around the spikes without grabbing the wall. For flag 11, you want to land a little further left so you can extended hyper here. The extended hyper lets you dash down. And then this entire section is mostly just doing the correct dashes in the correct directions. And then fast falling where you can. I'd recommend a demo dash right there so you can go under those spikes a little more safely. And then just dash up, make sure you're climb jumping up this wall. And then if you land on this platform really quickly and step right off of it, you won't grab flag 10. So if you might want to slow down a bit just to make sure you grab the flag. But if you want to go as fast as possible, skipping the flag actually means you're doing it as fast as you can. But flag 10 isn't too dangerous. You just want to fall off of here, dash left, fast fall, dash left again. I'd recommend grabbing this wall so you can climb up a little bit just to get as much height as you can, and it's just a wall jump and an up left. Make sure you grab flag 9, sometimes you'll land on this platform and you'll end up dash jumping without grabbing it. So just land on this flag. You need to line up a dash through this first gap, so you can just jump if you want. But it's actually pretty easy to line up if you reverse dash jump, because your dash jump speed pretty much ends the moment you're lined up. So doing a reverse dash jump actually makes this pretty easy to time if you want. But you need to drift to the right to dash to the second one. And then you just need to learn the spacing. Like, you need to dash to the left and then up pretty quickly, but if you do it too quickly, you'll hit the spikes on the side. So you just need to practice the spacing between the left and the up dash. The first up dash, or the up dash to the first crystal, isn't going to send you into those spikes, so you don't need to worry about going too high. But you're going to skip flag 8 just by dashing left and then dashing up, and then grabbing this. So after the after that up dash, you want to get as much height from it as possible. So just get as much height from that up dash as you can, so you can get enough height to grab the wall. You can just slow climb up this wall if you want, or do a climb jump and then a wall jump. And then you just high jump off this cloud. If you get full jump height from the cloud, then you can dash up and dash upright and land on the left side of this platform without having to climb jump. You may go too low, so just be ready to climb jump just in case. From here, you can just jump and dash upright to this wall, or you can extend the dash jump. Just be sure to dash upright right away after you extend the dash jump so you don't hit these spikes. But you want to wall jump off that wall. So, and it can't be neutral, it has to be a wall jump. And then after grabbing these crystals, you just kind of dash up. Again, space your dashes so you get as much height as you can from them. And just after each crystal, do 2 up dashes, wall jump, 2 up dashes, wall jump. And then once you get here, if you space out your climb jumps, you can do 4 climb jumps and then jump to battle in. You can do it a little faster than that because you saw I went pretty high. So here's a part where you have to do a feather with upward moving wind. You should hyper here, and then dash up left through the feather, because that waiting to dash up is a little slower because it takes longer to get to the feather. And then if you're on keyboard, remember to be holding upright at the start of the feather so you get the feather boost, which is really helpful. Otherwise, you just want to be holding the ideal angle on analog, which you're going to need to practice. Just kind of tap right if you're on keyboard, or just hold the specific angle on controller. And then when you exit this feather, if you got enough height in the feather, you can dash up. and then dash down to land on this cloud as soon as possible. But if after the up dash you can tell that you're not high enough, do another up dash, but it will take a little while to fall to the cloud. You want to take the boost from the cloud. You can wall bounce off of any of these corners right here, so you have a lot of room to do that. And then do one climb jump and then wall bounce out of the room. You don't need to grab flag 5 because this spot's a checkpoint anyway. So you can just dash forward to land here. And then if you jump, dash up and then dash up right, you can hit the spring. You need to climb jump at least once in order to get enough height to go around that spike. So you can either slow climb to get around it, or if you do just a very quick climb jump and then a wall jump. It has to be just a very short climb jump and you'll make it. But you need to get a little more height, so you can dash up right to here. You pretty much do the exact same thing, so you jump to this wall, climb jump, and then wall jump to get around it. And then you can dash up right and then forward, but I find it a little safer to dash up and then forward. Just make sure you dash forward immediately after the up dash. You don't go too high. And then you're going to land on the scramble block. You want to jump, dash up, and then wall bounce. And I messed it up. Oh yeah, and after this, you don't want to dash up right. You want to dash up and then forward. You can fast fall to the spring if you want. It's not too dangerous, but after hitting the spring, you either want to take the spring further and then just dash up once or twice to get to the feather, depending on how much height you get. Or if you dash up right immediately after hitting the spring, you can still dash up to the feather. And you're pretty much never going to hit the spikes on the left, even if you do dash up right, so don't be too afraid. You just have to maneuver this feather. The angles are they're like 45-degree angles, so it's not too hard on keyboard. But you want to dash upright, dash forward, and then usually you'll have to climb jump to get to flag 3. For flag 3, you just want to do a short dash jump to get to the spring. Make sure you let go of right after the dash jump, so that you're not moving to the right from the spring, because you can still hit those spikes after bouncing off the spring. You just want to let go of right to let the spring take you up to the wall. And then if you do a few climb jumps, you can then wall bounce once you get high enough. Just make sure that you are dashing straight up from here, because I very often accidentally dash up right, which gives me a wall bounce instead of a... or it gives me a wall jump instead of a wall bounce. So just make sure you get a lot of height from this wall bounce so that you can dash left to this feather. And then this feather is kind of tricky. Again, on keyboard, you want to start up right so you get the feather boost, and then just start moving. On analog, you want to get the closest angles you can. But if you maneuver this feather quickly enough, you can do this upright dash, and you'll notice even though I kind of slid along that piece of wall sticking out from the right, I still made it to this wall. So even if you're a little early, you'll still make it. But if you can get into this gap right here, you can dash upright to get to there. If you find that tricky, getting enough speed out of the feather, or getting out of the feather quickly enough, you can grab this wall, climb jump a little, dash upright, and then you want to either climb jump or just slow climb to line up the next one. And then just dash left. And then you want to take that feather straight up, regardless of what control scheme you're on. And once again, maneuver the feather. It's mostly just 45-degree angles again, and just be ready to time the dash to the left to get through there. And then up left. A lot of people skip flag 2 because they do a hyper bunny hop here. I'd recommend just walking forward to grab flag 2, and then you can just extend a dash jump. Because flag 2 is kind of dangerous, and getting sent all the way back to flag 3 is devastating. So extend a dash jump here, and then if you do a few up dashes, you can grab that wall. And then I'd recommend doing one climb jump first, and then if you wall bounce, you'll always go around that spike. You don't need to worry about it. I'd recommend doing one climb jump here to get a little more height, because you want to land on the top of that crystal, so that you can then dash upright, and land on the top of that spring. landing on top of that spring gives you all the height you need to get the highest wall bounce there possible. Because you want to get a very high wall bounce so that this upright dash and then forward dash lands you on the top of this crystal. And then you just upright to here. You want to do no more than 3 climb jumps. You can do 3 climb jumps here, but don't do a 4th, because if you do a 4th, you won't have enough stamina for the end. So it's climb jump, climb jump, climb jump, then wall jump, dash up left to the next wall, and then you need to do 1 climb jump before you can wall jump to here. And since 1 jump will get you level with the platform, you can just jump and immediately extend a dash jump, and it'll grab flag 1. You need to do an upright dash right away. And if you do it correctly, you can extend a dash jump off that next platform. So if you do a bunch of up dashes, otherwise you can just land and then jump and then do up dashes. From here, you can actually just dash upright and then is perfectly lined up for an extended dash jump off here. And then you can do an extended dash jump off of here if you input it very quickly. Or no, you don't want to extend a dash jump off here, you just want to dash forward. And then if you dash straight up from here, this next extended dash jump is very easy to line up. So dash upright, dash forward, don't jump here, just dash up. And then after that extended dash jump, you can do another extended dash jump, but it's very dangerous because of these spikes. So I'd recommend just dashing upright, landing here, jumping, and then dashing upright and forward. We're almost at the end here. So from here, if you extended hyper and then dash up, you'll be perfectly lined up for an extended dash jump right here. Otherwise, you can extend dash jump, dash up, dash left, and just make sure you hit the ground here before trying to jump. Because what can happen sometimes is that you'll accidentally go too high, and then you'll wall jump off that left wall, like that. So you need to make sure you're level with this platform so you can extend a dash jump. And then it's just a wall bounce, dash upright. You wanna step up onto here so that you can then jump, dash upright, jump, dash up left, and then once again jump, dash upright. And then pretty much the moment you touch down, you're gonna hit the cutscene. But I would suggest, because there's actually a tiny piece of ground, you can see that tiny corner that's obscured by the snow. You can get caught on that corner sometimes, and you'll think you beat the chapter, but you didn't. It actually happens to a lot of people, and they sometimes accidentally retry there. So unless you're really tight on a PB in the end of Summit, I'd suggest being careful with this cutscene skip. Just make sure the button's actually there. Then yeah, you skip the cutscene, and that's the end of the run. Of course, the credits are going to play once you complete the chapter complete screen, so you do need to make sure it's going to, after you skip the cutscene, it's going to take you to epilogue automatically. But at the end of the run, you do need to make sure that you go into the house, skip the cutscene, and then show this screen, because verifiers will use this to check your version. As just in case you're using like Everest or something like that, they need to be sure. So yeah, that's all for the Celeste 90% tutorial. I'll link to the other tutorial that I made about a year ago if you want to look at some slightly more advanced strats. But these strats will get you to at least sub 40, maybe even kind of 35-minute times. But definitely don't take all these strats for granted. These aren't like the absolute easiest way to do every room. Whatever is easiest is whatever's easiest for you. So definitely take these rooms and use Demo Tool to just kind of find your own method of doing rooms that you struggle with if you want. Because a consistent strat is always better than a fast one. When you start doing runs, your death count is going to be the main factor in what time you get. So always finding a way to die less is at first always more important than finding a way to go fast. Once you can consistently get like less than 20 deaths or so in your runs, or in your PBs at least, that's when you should start looking for ways to go faster. So yeah, good luck on your runs. I'll see you later.